You kind of mentioned this a bit with some of the faces you get at, say, some of the Vernon markets from some of the more white, mature Christian folk. But outside of that, have you experienced any discrimination or bias through your business itself?
Not through the business, no.
Oh,
In other aspects of life, yes, but that's unfortunately kind of going to happen when you're a queer disabled kid in a smaller conservative town.
hello and welcome back to another episode of Queerpreneurs Unleashed. I'm your host, Dustyn Baulkham, pronouns he, him, and I'm currently on the traditional territory of the Silk Okanagan people. And thrilled to welcome Taryn today. I know we've been emailing a bit back and forth for a while, so it's great to finally have you on here.
Yes, no, it is. I'm happy to be on.
Excellent. I always like to start out and just allow you to introduce yourself however you would like in that aspect.
All right, no, that sounds good. Hi, my name is Taron Des Mazes. My pronouns are he, him. I'm a queer disabled artist and shop owner in Vernon, BC.
Beautiful. Thank you. So yeah, we'll talk a bit about you personally, and then we'll dive into more the business side of things.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I actually like to start and talk a bit about people's kind of coming out and finding themselves and what that process looks like, because it's different for all of us. Only share obviously what we're comfortable with, because I know sometimes for us queer folk it's not always comfortable. So do you mind, letting people know a bit about your journey?
Yeah, sure. You always hear the whole thing of people find out they're trans when they're like 3, and then they, physically could not handle the whole, acting as who they were assigned at birth kind of thing. For me, in the gender realm, I only started figuring it out when I was 13. And then a couple months later, I did come out to my parents. They didn't, there's no nice way to say this, they didn't accept me at the time. They kind of went, oh, you're only thinking this because we gave you a phone and you have access to the internet, all this kind of stuff. Which, like, true. I didn't know there was an option before then.
Right.
Right? Like, I thought it was normal for every little girl to, want to be a guy and to be addressed as such. I thought that was, just a thing every kid had. Because I had no realm of, knowing there was a different option. And when I first came out, I came out as transgender. That has since changed because, all things are fluid. Who knows? They'll identify how I identify now for the next 60 years. Maybe it'll change in 20. Right now, I identify as two-spirit because I just find it, it fits me because, like, I'm not percent masculine, but non-binary also doesn't feel right just because a lot of the preconceived notion of non-binary is completely androgynous AFAB person, which just doesn't work. Which I know that's like a societal thing of what non-binary is, but it's very much there, right? Plus, it lets me connect a bit more with my Indigenous ancestry.
And I know you use AFAB. I wonder if you can define that for people who might not know what that is.
It means assigned female at birth. So there's AFAB and AMAB.
Right.
Assigned female, assigned male, i.e., when you are born, the doctors take a look at you and go, this is a girl, this is a boy. And then obviously there's the other option of intersex, which I also happen to be. But I only found that out about 4 or 5 months ago. Just because it's not a super, I guess, it's not that it's uncommon. It's incredibly common to be intersex, but it's just something that's very much pushed under the rug, right?
And that's obviously the yellow with the circle flag, which is
Yes.
kind of a more recent addition into the now inclusive flag. Do you mind sharing with what intersex actually is for someone that might not?
Oh, that's a hard question to answer because it is a medical term. Like, it's 100% a
Okay.
medical term. And it's either your hormones, your XY, XX chromosomes, or your actual like traits of being a man or woman. So genitalia, chest, all that kind of stuff don't match what they technically should. So, and there's so many different examples. It can be as much as you are full on, you were assigned a woman at birth, you full on identify as a woman, but you just happen to have the wrong chromosomes. Or
Right.
there's, you know, the same thing, you could be fully male, but you're producing enough estrogen to be, female medically, despite having a penis and all that. For me personally, I have polycystic ovarian syndrome, which is
Okay.
an intersex condition. Not everyone with it identifies as intersex, obviously, because it's, a very multifaceted conversation to have with yourself, right?
Yeah.
But I find that it just makes sense for me too, considering that since what that affects is my hormone production. So I produce not on par with male hormones, but a lot more male hormones than a female. So it's changed things of the way my weight distribution has been since I was a kid, the way I grow. I've always been known for having wide shoulders and not the womanly full hips kind of thing. A deeper voice, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I think that's thank you for sharing that first and foremost. I think it's always there's so much diversity within the queer community that and there's always different aspects, right? In terms of all parts of life, whether it be expression, identity, genetics, like it's always interesting, hearing other people's journeys and their personal situation in that aspect. So I appreciate you sharing that. How do you actually just a sec here? I'm gonna pause for a minute. My brain went in like three different places at once there. So um so you said the intersex side of you is fairly new within the last few months. Do you mind sharing how that came about?
Well, always knew that I wasn't like I knew that I obviously didn't have like typically like womanly traits with the wide shoulders and the deeper voice and all that.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, it's really deep now because I've started testosterone, but even previously it was in the lower ranges. And I only figured it out because I knew I had polycystic, I've known for a couple years. And only recently I kind of thought about it and I was like, wait a second, that's a hormone disorder that's often labeled under, being intersex. So I kind of researched it and I found out that yes, people do consider it an intersex disorder, I guess, medical condition. Yeah. So that's kind of how I figured it out. Then I saw that and I was like, I see no problem with adopting that label, especially because intersex people it's about 1 in 1,000. It is incredibly common.
Wow, that's
Um,
common.
right? Like
Yeah.
um, you're more likely to meet an intersex person in a room than a redhead. Like it is crazy how common it is,
Yeah.
but no one talks about it because, you know, especially when it's the more obvious sides, like just genital deformities, we would be seen as weird, needing to be fixed, all that kind of stuff. Not to say that, having deformity that it should be 100% left alone because obviously there can be complications.
Yeah.
Most of the time if you do leave it alone, you will still grow up healthy and fine,
Right.
right? So just to come, forth and identify as intersex, it's showing people that one, we do exist, two, we are normal people, and there's nothing necessarily to be ashamed of to have any sort of medical abnormality because there really isn't. Just
Yeah.
happens.
Totally.
Yeah,
And that's it, right? We need to accept that and live with it. But you're right. You can't be ashamed of that because it's completely outside of your control. Like it just
exactly.
happens.
Yeah, no,
So
it's not like I'm ashamed of having purple hair. That's one thing that's fully on me. Any sort of, mental, physical disorder, that's not your fault.
no, exactly. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I appreciate it. Now let's talk on the business side of things and let's start by telling us a bit about your business.
Yeah, sure. My business is called Ginkgo Teeth Designs. It is an artist collective, obviously based here in Vernon. And just started that I have ADHD, and the way my ADHD works is that I would kind of latch on to a thing, often an artistic thing, because,
Yeah.
I'm artistic. I would make a whole bunch of things in this realm, be it sewing, jewelry, polymer clay, and then I would just kind of have all these things sitting around as a kid, right? So at about 16, 17, I went, wait a second, there's, an opportunity with this of I have all these things, I could sell them, right? Easy as that. So I started up when I was 17 and launched it on Etsy when I turned 18. And then that was a couple years I did that. And then when was, or I guess about a year and a half, when I was 19, I actually fell off my bike and acquired a TBI, which is a traumatic brain injury,
Wow.
which kind of, I mean, not kind of, completely rocked my world, right?
I bet.
I kind of had to admit myself, okay, the odds of me being able to work a typical 9 to 5 and make good money off that are now low. So I kind of just started putting it all into my business. And I also noticed that there was a deficit for not just young people, but anyone starting a business to learn, to get help, all this kind of stuff. I always say there's two options when you start out. You start out, you try, you lose, 100 to 500 bucks in the first year and you quit. So that's most of us.
Right.
Or you already have $1 million, you just fast track your way. Like that's kind of it. So the way that it being a collective now, I allow any artist to come on and sell underneath the shop. I don't take any profits. The most I'll add is a couple dollars on top to go to me because I am doing your marketing. I'm running once we get that up and running, I'm taking it to events. But I'm hoping to create a little community in which all the artists can talk to each other, learn things from each other, and so far it's been going really great because we do have a artist Discord that everyone talks on. We've been doing collabs with each other, all this kind of stuff.
Great. What's been your biggest challenge getting to this point?
Money, but I also feel like everyone's going to say that, but also just marketing and getting our stuff out here because you can obviously tell I'm a very alternative person. I consider myself a punk human being, protest. I dress like this normally, all that kind of stuff. And it reflects in my art. My art is alternative. It's a lot of queer stuff. It's a lot of, metal with spikes kind of thing. And for those of you listening who don't know, Vernon is a small town. It's about 50,000 now, I believe, but it's also very conservative and very Christian. It is seen as a retirement town, so older people come and they retire, which tend to be Christians. And they have a habit of seeing what I sell at markets and stuff, making a face, and then just walking away. And that'll be 90% of people at market. So it's very hard to get out there, which isn't to say that, there's no one buying my things. There's a huge group of young people who absolutely adore my things that I'll see them wearing it around town and all that kind of stuff. But it's made it so that I pretty much don't really go to markets here anymore. I'll go to the ones in Kelowna. I'll go to the Vernon Comic Con. Other than that, I almost always lose money, which makes it incredibly challenging for obvious reasons.
Yeah. And I think markets can be so hit and miss, I think, for a lot of people. Like I did 9 Pride markets this past summer.
Yeah, you
8 or
mentioned.
9. And yeah, like some are great. Kelowna's great, Kamloops is great, Victoria was okay, Vancouver Pride really financially wasn't worth it. We didn't lose money, but I really didn't make enough to justify going.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and so it's tricky because the smaller ones that don't have huge fees, like if they're 25, 50, even $75 sometimes, it's like you go and you don't have to sell a lot to break even on it. But sometimes those are the ones actually, you do a lot better on them just because there's a lot less competition.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
and I would find that, like, I used to go to, in the summer, every weekend, there's the Polson Market. And for the first year last year that I was really getting into markets, I went every weekend. And I found most of the time I lost money just and I live right beside Polson. So, like, the 3 minutes of driving there and the $40 for a table, I would make, if I'm lucky, $10.
right.
Whereas other days, it just happened to be a great day and I would make $150, which were obviously on the rarer side. I think I did that maybe once. So that makes it really hard too, because you can be going to a market for years, but say the table fee is high, and if 1 year is bad, screw you over. But
Absolutely.
there's no way to know, and it's really the organizer's fault. It just is.
Yeah. Well, there's so many other factors, right? There's other events going on. There can be weather, time of year. Like there's just a number of factors that play into markets, whether they're inside, outdoors, like any number of things. So yeah, I mean, you hope for the best sometimes, and depending, you just don't know what you're gonna. I mean, sometimes it's very consistent, and but there's other times it's definitely a bit of a TBD in that aspect in terms of what's going to happen. So
very much, no,
yeah.
and it's from who I've been talking to, just other makers and shoppers. It's been hard for everyone this year, just because the price of living is so exponentially high that none of my things are needs in life. It's all pretty art, fun stickers, jewelry. No one needs that, right?
Yeah.
So, and especially with things like Temu and Shein has completely made things so much more difficult. Because the amount of times people will come up to me and they'll go, "Oh, I can get that on Teen." And I'm like, "You can, but you're not supporting local, and I put time, effort, and money into making these myself."
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Right?
handmade versus machine made.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah. I know you kind of mentioned this a bit with some of the faces you get at, say, some of the Vernon markets from some of the more white, mature Christian folk. But outside of that, have you experienced any discrimination or bias through your business itself?
Not through the business, no.
Oh,
In other aspects of life, yes, but that's unfortunately kind of going to happen when you're a queer disabled kid in a smaller conservative town, right?
yeah.
Thankfully, not with the business. No, the most they've
Okay.
ever done is said it was weird or just, left, which obviously it's not fun to witness, but ultimately does not hurt anyone.
Yeah. I sometimes joke, I'm like, I think weird is cool. I think normal is boring. So to me, and I had staff once, I was working in a bank and I can't remember exactly how I said it to her, but I said something about not being normal and she like got all offended. I'm like, that's a compliment coming from me. To
Well,
me,
that
normal is that you're really
100%
boring
is.
and very generic. So take that. I was like, oh, okay. So because it is like normal's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Like it's very up to your own perception and perspective on things. So it's like there's really nothing that, I don't know. I just hate the word normal.
It's just samey and original. Like there's nothing to it.
Yeah,
Obviously, if you want to be what is, conceived as normal, power to you. It's just it doesn't seem fun.
boring.
Yeah.
What about a memorable success or like an achievement that you've really meant a lot to you in your journey of entrepreneurship?
Oh, getting into brick and mortar stores. Feeling in the world. Unfortunately, I have to say a lot of them didn't work out. Typically just not even outside factors, just I find a lot of the owners of the stores I get into are weird in ways of you have to hound them to get paid. They'll, move your product around without asking, that kind of stuff. Which the moving thing isn't the biggest deal. It's more of the, having to hound them to get paid. That's just why, you know. But some of the places I'm in right now are amazing, like Oopsie Daisy downtown on 30th, as well as Flesh Body Piercings, also on 30th. I love being in those stores. The owners are absolutely awesome. I've had no issues with them. They kind of just let me come in and drop stuff off.
Have you talked with House of Misfit in Kamloops at all?
I have.
Okay.
Um, I've actually been in there since the start, and we're working on
Oh,
getting some
good.
of my product in right now.
Amazing. I just feel like, your vibe would fit really well in that store with your product and all of that. And obviously the model of the store would fit
Mhm.
with you as well. So I just wanted to make sure because we're always in there, like, because it's right across the street from Bright Eye and Kamloops where we do a lot of our events. So we go see them quite regularly
Oh, fair
when we're in
enough.
town. So, and yeah, they got some really cool stuff in there. So the other thing I was thinking about when you're talking about getting into stores and whatnot is, I don't know if you've ever heard of Proud Zebra, but they do pins and they're based out of Vancouver. They're queer owned. There's two guys from Singapore originally, but I know them through the Pride circuit, but they even are in, I think, Winners and Home Sense now in some of their stores. So they've done really good at, they built on Shopify just like my website is, and they've integrated with Etsy and all of that. So definitely someone to look into and even to potentially reach out. They're really nice guys. Actually, when I was saying that, I'm like, I need to get them on the podcast too. So then it's reminded to myself. But yeah, that's great because it's a big step trying to get into stores. And once you
Yes. Yeah.
do land that, it can open up a lot more opportunity. But it's also a lot of work because you gotta figure out packaging and all the different parts that, sometimes it's
Exactly.
a bit different than going to a market.
No, it's both more complicated but also easier. You have to actually check your emails for once, which I still don't do as much as I should. But
Yeah.
it has this way to make you feel legitimate, which is
Yeah.
so weird because there's nothing illegitimate about owning an online or market only business, right? It's still a business,
Absolutely.
right? Being in a brick and mortar store where you're kind of permanent. just makes it feel like, oh, I've made it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. With your business, do you target the LGBT community at all in any way, or are you pretty broad in terms of the clientele that you look to attract?
I'm pretty broad. Like, I'm not going to necessarily turn away any clients unless I have,
Of course.
say they have some sort of hate memorabilia, then I'm obviously going to be like, no, you can't buy here. Like, leave.
Yeah.
But I have a couple pride themed things. I have some jewelry with flags on it. I'm working on a series of pins with flags. Yeah, I find it's kind of hard to find something that hasn't is fully, I guess, original. Because, like, for example, if you look to crochet is the first thing that comes to mind. Everyone's done a crochet queer thing just because it's fun, it's easy, you have the market.
Yeah.
And, like, no hate, obviously, if you take inspiration. I take inspiration from tons of things, but just kind of, I guess, more on myself for being 100% original, even though I'm aware that that's not necessarily fair.
Okay.
I don't know. I think it's just a weird thing I'm really particular about for myself personally. Not any of my artists. If my artists want to take, inspiration from something, it's the whole idea of nothing's actually original anymore because it's all been done before. But, no.
I know that's the thing. It's like, there's so much out there nowadays that it's hard to not have elements of other
Exactly.
art. And so
Yeah.
I get how challenging that can be for sure. Do you find there's any challenges in being an entrepreneur that's unique to the LGBT community that maybe the non-LGBT folks don't experience?
I mean, yeah, the first one that comes to mind is discrimination, you know? And discrimination is obviously a multifaceted thing because, especially with the seemingly war on trans people, of I've seen so many transphobes just decide that anyone is trans just because, essentially, right? It could be as much as having a big nose. I've seen people try and claim someone's queer because of that. Yeah, no, it's weird. And it's also the of when you are queer for reasons, often societal reasons, you often have some mental health issues with depression or anxiety, just in general of, seeing the hate online or, catastrophizing of, oh, I can't bring my stuff to markets because someone's going to say something and then everyone's going to know that I'm queer, right? And they're all going to do something. So that's definitely a liability I've had friends kind of struggle to deal with because it can be difficult. And especially here in Vernon, that can be difficult because even though I have not had anything happen to me because of my business and being queer, that's not to say no one has had something happen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, and that's why I like bringing it up in the podcast, because there's some businesses that have experienced a lot. I mean, I've had a lot of protests and hate online, especially on Facebook. Excuse me. And then there's certain people who are queer, in other spaces, but experience nothing because
Mhm.
it's not necessarily integral into their business. So I think it's important to highlight that and actually have a discussion around it. So, and on kind of the queer community front, are there any causes or initiatives that are really near and dear to your heart that you try and support?
Yes. I try to support things like West Sweatin, Fairy Creek, a lot of mutual aid. I try my best to support because I do
Yeah.
recognize that that is the best way to support others. Because, like it or not, a lot of charities don't actually do anything, which is a whole nother topic, obviously. You know, I try to do my research before donating to anything, obviously. There's things that I used to support, like Trevor Project, but some things have come out that make it a bit more iffy. Yeah. No, when I'm putting my money towards something, I want to make sure that it will make a real change,
Of
that it's
course.
not necessarily just going to sit in a bank somewhere for the next 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, it's a balance because one of my volunteer hats is chair of the Central Okanagan Foundation, and we do have money that sits in the bank for a long time, right? Like
Yeah.
our asset base is like our endowment base is $43 million. But that what happens is you take the income from that and it goes back to the community in various
Yeah.
ways. So
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. Like you want to have an impact. And so I guess I'm just kind of clarifying that sometimes in the bank can be good.
No,
if
no, no,
it's
yeah, no,
yeah,
that example
yeah,
perfectly. I have no problems with that. But there's, other ways that it's done by some charities that it's the whole thing of profits. are great in theory, but a lot of them will end up paying kind of organizer or, leader, owner, whatever, 50%, whereas each individual worker gets 10, right? Obviously, I'm not
That is
saying
fair.
all nonprofits, but it seems to be a common model.
Yeah, there's needs some equity in that for sure.
Yes, yes.
Absolutely. What does success look like for you in your business?
There's a lot of different ways to measure success, honestly. It used to be back when the online store was open that I would get a at least one order a week. Now it's, I'm having candid conversations about my business with people, often at least breaking even at markets. You know, that I guess it's weird to say employees, but I am technically managing them. Which I've been doing it for almost 2 years now, but it's still a weird thing to say. Because, I'm only 22 and being a manager at this age is weird to me. But, my artists are happy. They don't have any necessary, complaints about anything I'm doing. Because, I might be coming from a good heart, but that doesn't mean that I'm never going to make a mistake, right? That my that I'm putting my all into my business is very much a success since I am chronically disabled and it can be hard to, get myself to actually put in the work often, actually. Yeah, no. There's a lot of different ways to measure it. Overall, just that I'm happy with what I'm doing,
There you go.
which I'm glad to say that I am.
Good. That's important because not there's a lot of people out there that can't say that.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna move us into what I call lightning round. So it's just this or that. You don't need to explain it. It's just when I give you an example, you pick a kind of A or B in a sense, and then we'll just keep going through, and then I go into some like short answer questions there. So, dinner at a fancy restaurant or home cooked meal?
Home cooked.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Multiple short vacations in a year or one long vacation?
Multiple short.
How about Mexico or Hawaii?
Again, my the fact that I am punk and very aware of where my money's being spent. Mexico, Hawaii should
Okay.
not be a tourist destination.
Would you rather go watch a movie or enjoy live music?
Live music.
How about Vancouver or Victoria?
Oh, Vancouver. Victoria's tiny once you get there.
More of an early riser or like to sleep in?
Sleep in.
Drive or fly if you have the option of doing either?
Drive every time.
Audiobooks or real books?
Real.
For business spending, do you more of a debit or credit card type user?
Debit.
How about a bank or credit union for business?
Banks.
Are you a dog or a cat person?
Both.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
How about Spotify or Apple for your music?
Is neither an option.
Sure. I mean, if you use something else, I just find most people are those two. So what do you use?
Right now I use Spotify, but I'm looking to get Udo. Wait,
Okay.
no. That's the wrong name actually. That's the name of a different thing. Let me
Oh,
grab the name.
I feel like those are just the two main ones. So I never think of asking anything else because
No, that's fair. It's There's another one that starts with an O, and obviously the issue everyone has with Spotify and Apple is that they don't pay the artists. They don't. They pay them pennies. This one that starts with, again, it starts with an O. The picture is like of a record. It pays the artist proper, like $2 every single time you play their song, and you can get the artist merch on it as
okay.
well. So it's a little bit pricier than Spotify, but I would say it's almost definitely worth it.
Okay. Cool. Do you like popcorn?
Yes.
I find that's one of those like people love it or hate it. Does pineapple belong on a pizza?
God, no. What
Okay.
the hell people in Calgary were thinking.
Yeah, I with you. These are just like kind of short answers, whatever makes sense for you. What's your favorite type of music?
Punk rock, obviously. The alternative. I like indie folk as well.
And how about your favorite time of year?
It used to be spring, but right now in the
Okay.
Okanagan, spring, it pretty much goes now for, again, those people who don't live here. It goes into it being winter to it being like plus 20. There's no real spring anymore, so I'm going to have to say fall.
Okay, fair enough. Do you have a favorite place that you like to travel to, whether vacation or unwind or whatever?
Honestly, my favorite way to unwind is just go on a drive.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
Fair
back
enough.
when my car was working because it broke down recently, it would just go on drives near Consley. I remember me and my roommate one time just to like relax. We drove 3 hours to the Enchanted Forest and back, just cause.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a fun spot. I like it. I have a few kind of last thoughts, questions to ask that kind of wraps everything up. And I always like to start that with how do you handle like your work-life balance and self-care as an entrepreneur?
Well, like I mentioned previously, I am chronically disabled due to a myriad of conditions. So my work life balance right now is mainly just doing nothing, unfortunately, because,
Okay.
and I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of spoons, but what
No.
spoons are is it's another way disabled people often use to say energy. The number of spoons you have per day fluctuates, and the number of spoons a task takes per day also fluctuates. So some days I'll have 2 spoons, and getting out of bed and brushing my teeth is that it for the day.
Okay.
Other days I'll have spoons, and I'm able to do everything I want, which makes it incredibly difficult because I can never, like, I can try my best to plan what I'm going to do next day. Ultimately, I have to listen to my body.
Right.
Because if I push myself, I will be out of the count for a week, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
I'll kind of just mentally collapse where I just genuinely cannot think of doing anything. So a lot of the times you'll see me whenever I'm working on stuff that I physically don't have to be somewhere, I will be on the couch watching YouTube while I'm doing it.
Okay.
So it's all I am working, but it never like it's one of those things of I don't tell a lot of people that I'm always on the couch while working because there's the prerequisite of, oh, that makes me lazy,
Right.
right? Even though it still
Yeah.
takes a lot of energy and effort, and I am genuinely making things, I'm working on my business, doing bookkeeping. But just because I'm on a couch, not a desk, and there's YouTube in the background, it's that whole thing of, oh, you're just watching the video,
Yeah.
right?
Totally. I have those days too where I'll just sit on the couch. I'm on my phone because I'm posting for social media because not everything has to happen on a computer, right? So
Yeah.
I get that, and yeah, the creative side of things and work can take place in many different situations. So for sure, I get that. Are there any entrepreneurs out there that really inspire you?
No, there's a couple. Honestly, like if I was to start listing them, I could go off forever because a lot of them are just genuinely my friends. The big one right now is my friend Sage, who runs the shop Embers, and they inspire me because they have also chronic illnesses and disabilities, as well as chronic pain. And I have a bit of chronic pain, but they have it near constantly.
Right.
So being constantly in pain and still running a business that is quite like successful is amazing to just be able to push through that and keep continuing to create because if I was in moderate to extreme amount of pain every day, I think I just wouldn't leave my bed, honestly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's those days, right? I have those days still. I need an extra hour or two in bed because for whatever reason. So
Oh yeah,
sometimes
no.
that's what our body needs, right?
Yeah. With my brain injury especially, I will wake up after sleeping for 8 hours. I'll go, nope, not doing it. And then I'll roll over and sleep for another 20. And every
Yeah.
time when I wake up from those days, I'm like, oh god damn it. I did it again. They'll come
Yeah.
once every 2 or 3 months.
Right.
Um, but it's genuinely just because, I have disabilities and sometimes I've been working myself to the bone and my brain and body just goes, no, you're done. Time for a
Yeah.
break.
Need a break for sure. What advice would you give other queer individuals who are looking at entrepreneurship as a path?
First one, questions.
Okay.
Ask people questions. If you're not sure, please ask questions. Check forums. Reddit is a very good place to find, if XYZ website or product is good to get into. Ask questions and don't be afraid to try. Try the new thing, even if you
Yeah.
think, oh, only one person's going to buy it. So, if you enjoy making it and, maybe no one will buy it, that's all right. You learnt, you've made a mistake, which it's not even necessarily a mistake because you can still use it yourself, right? Try the next thing. You still learnt something from that,
Absolutely.
action or task
Yeah.
that you did. Don't get me wrong, it's going to be difficult, sometimes more than others, but you always have to weigh your pros and cons. If there's one more
Right.
pro than there is cons, keep going.
Totally. That's great. And we'll have this in the description as well, but how can people find you online?
My main form of contact is my Instagram, which is Ginkgo Teeth Designs, GINKGOTETH _ I also have a website, which ginkgoteeth.udo.com, I believe. And then I have email if you want to personally reach out to me, which is ginkgoteeth@hotmail.com. Yeah, and then from the website and the Instagram, you can find out what events I'm at, you can see what I'm selling, all that kind of stuff.
Beautiful. That's great. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey, both obviously on the queer side in your life personally, but also, with Ginkgo Teeth. Wishing you all the best on future success with that. And hopefully I see you around at an event sometime soon.
All right. Yeah, no, sounds good. Thank you. Thank you for
Okay.
having me.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks so much.
Bye.